Good evening and welcome to this special edition of the Eye and Stat Sports Show. I'm your host, Earl Baston. Joining me are our medalists at the CAC Games in swimming in Emma Harvey, Madeline Moore, and Coach Ben Smith. Ben, let me just say from the start, it's unfortunate that Benedict Parfit and Jack Harvey is not joining us this evening because I wanted to have an opportunity to speak to all the swimmers. But these two females, phenomenal. You've watched them grow. Give us a sense of what you've seen in both of these athletes that they got rewarded at these CAC Games.
Well, as you alluded to, both of these young ladies have been competing and training together since they were very little girls. And just watching the progress of them as we've gone from, their first Carifta and CC Can championships. And as they've come along, you've just seen them build experience along with some confidence that really showed up when we got there. It's always great to get to this level of competition because what arrived in San Salvador were two professional athletes. Both of them came prepared to do, I think they had set their goals on coming back with medals, and they went there with that task in mind, and you could see that they went about it like business. This is what we came here to achieve. They take care of their bodies. They make sure they eat right. They do all the little things to make sure that they could get this kind of result. And just watching them kind of go through that process and then achieve it was just an awesome experience. And I'm so proud of both of them.
Sure. Before I go to Emma, let me ask you, Maddie, everyone calls you Maddie. The last time we were away, international competition, you were making it to finals. Obviously, Jassy Washington was struggling a little bit, and it was a confidence thing, I think, because he didn't feel as if he was having a good. Did you feel like you were in his shoes this time around early in competition?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, just thinking back to when we were in Colombia and 4 or 5 years ago, I'm definitely a different swimmer to what I was then, but now it was kind of a rocky start to the meet with a little organization. We didn't swim for 2 days,
sure.
Which is very unusual going into a meet. So it was just kind of getting my bearings on the first couple days. So, on the first day coming fourth was a bit of a, bummer, but at the same time, seeing where I was last year, or the last games, making B finals and then won A final in the 50. It's just, I've come a long way and I was really happy with that.
Sure. So Emma, let me jump to you real quick because you've had a remarkable season at Penn State.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about the goals you set yourself, especially for this meet, the CAC Games. Mm-hmm. You're swimming yards at school, you're swimming meters at international competition. And, I've known enough over the years to know that there's a difference. But talk a little bit about the year you had at Penn State and then coming into these international competitions.
Yeah. So I think, my year at Penn State was sort of in yards, I guess you could say a breakout year for me. Over the past 4 years, I just finished my senior season. I definitely had some rocky years amongst them. But, coming into my maybe last year, I just wanted to really lead everything on the table. And I think I did that, especially basically leading all the way up into our conference meet, which is Big Tens in February. I felt like I was in a great place. I was pretty much getting best times at every meet. It was pretty much a pretty perfect setup. And although I didn't perform exactly how I wanted to at Big Tens and ultimately missed out on NCAAs, I was really happy, as you mentioned, with the progress I made. And, I think a big goal of mine was after Big Tens, I sort of learned that I don't deal with pressure the best. And so I was really just determined to kind of learn from those experiences and take that with me to international competitions because, ultimately you have to do it at night. You have to do it in those finals. So, I just tried to learn as much as I could from the kind of experience at Yards and at Penn State, bring that with me to CAC games and Worlds and then Pan Am's in October.
Sure. Ben, we are in the presence of two people who led their teams. When I say led their teams, they were captains of their teams. Coming from a small island, and they both over the years have talked about adjusting to pressure. But coming from a small island like Bermuda, two people have led their team. So their teammates and the coaches have looked to them to say they are leaders. What does that say about the program in Bermuda?
Well, I mean, I would say that over quite an extended period of time, Bermuda Swimming has been producing great athletes, but I'd like to take that step further and say great leadership. And both of these young ladies have shown that from a young age, and they've continued to build on that. Emma alluded to it a little bit, or maybe it was Maddie, but the beginning of this competition was not as smooth as we would normally like, right? So we arrived in San Salvador. That first day, I think it was a 3-4 hour delay before we could get to the village because our tags weren't exactly what they needed to be. And then we couldn't get into competition pool, where normally that's the first thing that we want to do is be able to get to the competition pool, be able to get to the training facility. The first opportunity we had to do any kind of swimming was, I believe, 2 days in, and Emma and Jack were dodging lightning bolts while Benedict and Maddie were saying, "I'm not getting in. There's too much lightning." So that was the initial setup of the competition, and you have to realize that when you get to this kind of games championship, it's not always smooth sailing. And those are the parts that I think are most impressive about the way that both of them handled themselves to get to those results. We were walking probably 15,000 steps a day. It was at altitude. There was heavy rain several days. We actually competed in a lightning storm, which is not just unusual, it should never happen. But going through all those experiences, they still came up to, Emma broke the ice by getting that first medal, but I think it was really impressive to see what both of them were able to do on that final day after all of that experience had gone through. Yeah. And you could just tell they were hungry to perform for Bermuda. So that leadership that they have been building over this period of time, I think they really showed it at this competition, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to be able to do in the future.
Sure. So Emma, let's talk about that first night. I mean, I know Maddie, you finished fourth. Obviously, with all the other obstacles in front of you, you would have loved to have, been on that podium at some point in time, especially the first night. So Emma, let me ask you, did that settle your nerves that first night?
Actually, it's funny. I think it almost made me more nervous throughout the meet in a good way. But, I think after I won that first medal, obviously I'd loved to have touched the wall first, but, I did everything I could. And I definitely will learn a lot from that experience coming in second. But, the support from Bermuda was unreal. It was just nothing I'd ever experienced before. And I think that, as you say, made me hungry for more. So, in the subsequent days, I know it kind of went from, okay, I want to see how fast I can go. I want to see what I can do. I want to see how I can perform. It went to, I want to bring back, more medals from Bermuda. And, that's not to say that wasn't always my goal going in, but I mean, I think once you get that first taste, you're so much more hungry than you realized. And I think that's just kind of how I tried to approach the rest of the meet, where it got to a point where I didn't even mind. I didn't care really what the time was. I just wanted to, be standing on that podium. And, after a couple close fourths on days 2 and 4, 2 and 3, I was really happy to finally be able to do that again on the last night.
Sure. So, Maddie, let me ask you, because it's kind of, in your career, it's kind of role reverse. You're usually the one on the podium, and the other Bermudians always knocking on the door. This time around, you're knocking on the door, and here's Emma on the podium. Take us through the emotion of that first night of watching a fellow Bermudian be on the podium And obviously a little bit of disappointment in you not being on that podium as well.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it was touching the wall and seeing fourth, definitely disappointing. But, you know, when I saw Emma had medaled, I mean, I surely thought that she was going to win that, honestly, the way that she looked in the morning, she was flying. So I was ecstatic for her. You know, again, like looking back to where I was at the last games, just even being in medal contention was amazing. But, you know, this transfer to Virginia Tech, I knew this year was going to be like a transition year, like coming to a whole new program after 4 years and adjusting to their training. So I knew that there was going to be some ups and downs this year, and you know, just being where I am, I'm super excited.
So Ben, I mean, having a strong team, a small team but a strong team, when you're looking at, like, I'm going to say this because you and I talk a lot, especially about other athletes and other competitions and, you know, times and everything. When you looked at this team and you looked at the opponents and you know, heats and then into finals, do you think we achieved what we should have achieved, underachieved, or overachieved?
I think with the setup of this particular competition, I think that we did the best that we could do in this competition.
Hey, Maddie, Emma, politician answering right now.
I was waiting for what reply I was about to
but to be honest with you, if you looked at the overall results, the difference between first and eighth was so close. It really was just determination, right? So who was going to make that little extra effort in the last 10 meters that was making the difference between getting a medal and coming eighth? That's the level of the competition. Overall, when you look at the depth and the strength of this CAC games, it was impressive that they were making A finals and then turning those A finals into the results that they did. I think, I'm not sure that everybody realizes the level of the accomplishment to get to reach medals in this particular games.
Sure.
I think both of them will say that Mexico came with an extremely strong team. They had 2 people in every A final, and to be able to compete against, let's be honest, it's a country of 133 million.
Mm-hmm.
And for our young ladies to step up against them and to be able to perform the way they did shows the growth that they made to this point.
Sure.
But they're not done, right? Like this is just showing what they're capable of at this point. And I know that both of them will continue to work hard so they can move forward so that we can reach higher heights.
And I'm glad Ben mentioned that, because that was going to be one of the questions I had for both you, Emma, and Maddie. We've seen swimmers before you have opportunities, but once school is over, then we have to settle into what we consider the real world. We have to have a job. We have to do all sorts of things. How do you plan to navigate that? Let's just talk short term, not world championships, but next year's Olympics. How do you plan to navigate to try and qualify for such a big event? And I'll start with you, Emma.
Yeah. So, you know, I feel, you know, really lucky to be in the position where my university team is, you know, not necessarily supporting me financially, but they're allowing me to have a place to train. I'm still finishing up school as well. So for the whole fall semester, I'll basically still be a normal student. I won't be competing for Penn State, but I'll be just there training full time. And then, you know, I'm basically going to take 6 months and just, you know, put everything into swimming and then sort of make a decision after that of, you know, what does my future look like after next year? Because I won't be competing for Penn State, I will still have another year of collegiate eligibility. So right now my intention is to finish up next year, you know, train, do everything I possibly can. And then, you know, if I feel like it's something I want to keep going, which I'm at this point, I don't see why I wouldn't want to keep going, but, you know, things change.
Mm-hmm.
Then I plan to use my last year of eligibility and get my master's at the same time. So right now I'm definitely planning on swimming for at least the next 2 years. And then, if I'm in a position where after that I have the opportunity to keep swimming and I can either support myself through other means or, find flexible working, then I will definitely, explore the options of keeping swimming just because, I love the sport so much. So, but, that's a long way. That's a long way away. So
Yeah.
I guess we'll just have to wait and see when those 2 years are up, kind of where I'm at.
And I picked you first for a reason, because what you're going to go through this year, Maddie went through already this year. Now she's on that outside looking in. So Maddie, how does this work for you?
So right now it's similar position to Emma. So Virginia Tech has kind of like a small pro team. So I'll be staying in training with them for this next year. So right now I'm kind of like going through the whole sponsorship and all that good stuff, just so I can solely just focus on swimming and everything that comes along with that for this next year. So yeah, just kind of doing that right now.
Yeah. So Ben, let's talk a little bit about times. I know we worry about medals, and yeah, you can swim the slowest time and still get the gold medal in a particular race because not everybody's going all out. But times are important for swimming only because it allows you to qualify for another event.
Yeah.
So looking at the talent you had going into this particular meet, what were some of the things you guys as coaches worked on to ensure that the intensity was high at all times that when they jumped into the pool?
So to be honest with you, when we travel to this level of competition, considering that these athletes are, as I call them, they're professionals, right? They're training with major programs. They have a timeline of what they're going to do going into the competition. My job is to just continue to carry them when they get there. Anything that they need, I need to support them. But I think it's interesting when you get to this level of competition where they have the opportunity to go through to the finals and then have the opportunity to then go for medals like they did. That's one version of what this looks like. In a couple of weeks, we'll be traveling to Japan. They'll be at the World Championships, where it's going to be the clock that they're going to be competing against. They're looking for faster times. Both of them have either re-qualified or qualified with A standards for Pan Am Games in the fall. So I know that they'll be looking forward to what that looks like. But obviously, reaching a standard that allows them to be selected for Paris next year is the focus in the background at all times. That's the pinnacle of our sport. That's what they'll be looking towards doing. But I just like to touch on what you said, this transition period that they go through. It's the difficult part that nobody ever really talks about, right? How do you go from collegiate athlete to be able to be supported to reach the goal? Everybody was really excited to have Emma and Maddie reach this goal where they were able to represent Bermuda, get medals and make Bermuda proud. But what happens next is going to take a different level of support. And that's the part that I think it's important that we continue to get everyone to understand. If they don't have financial backing that allows them to get the training and the physical therapy and massage therapy and just nutrition in order for them to stay at this level, regardless of that, we actually need them to even get better than they are now. And that just takes a level of support that I'm not sure everybody always understands is necessary. But I'm hoping that's what we'll see, that will allow not only for them to be able to reach their goals for 2024, but as Emma alluded to be able to take it from that and continue on. There are athletes that were at this championship that won medals that have stayed in past this cycle. Right. So both of these young ladies could continue on after 2024, but it has to make sense. You said moving on to get a job, but that's because that's the decision where you have to move on with your life to support yourself. To reach the goal for Bermuda, we're going to have other people help to support them.
So I'm going to jump to you both, Emma and Maddie. Maddie, I'm going to come to you first. And I'm only going to come to you first because you've been to two schools. So initially you go to a school. You probably looked at the swimming program. You've probably looked at who's coaching and all of that. And then you move to another school. So take us through the emotional ride of, one, you got to get to know your teammates. Two, the now new expectations, because regardless, the expectations of you being a Bermuda swimmer and you being a swimmer for the school you're attending is totally different. So take us through that emotional, especially your first year of both. No, and I say first year of both only because you had done X amount of years in the first school and then went to the second school. But I guarantee you it was still that emotion because now you have all new teammates.
Yeah, it was a lot. I mean, my first year in Colorado, 18-year-old, like just coming from boarding school from in the UK. So that in itself was a big adjustment. Just kind of completely different culture.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there was more of like both of them. There's excitement going into it. I didn't know what to expect, obviously starting university in a new country. So more in Colorado, it was more so just like curiosity, excitement, just kind of getting to know the layout of the land and all that. But moving to Virginia Tech was, a lot of people were asking me, they're like, are you like nervous to go, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm just honestly so excited to kind of just start a new program. Like, I enjoyed my time in Colorado, but I knew it was time for me to kind of move on to and start thinking about the next 2 years, especially because I knew that they had a professional team there that I'd be able to train with in the Olympic year. So that was a big factor for me. And actually my coach in Colorado went to university with my now coach in Tech. So she asked me when I decided I was leaving, like, where do you want to go? And I was like, I want to go to Virginia Tech. And then she honestly was so amazing about it. Helped me kind of with that transition. And she was getting on the phone and calling. And it was just such a weird coincidence that, her training partner is now my coach. So, and he was actually at the games because for Mexico, he was a Venezuelan athlete who kind of infamous, honestly. He was amazing, still is amazing. But yeah, so it was nice to have him there too.
Nice. So Emma, let me ask you. I want to ask you a similar question to what I asked Maddie, and this about how you adjusted. But a year in, now comes baby brother Jack. How do you deal with that?
I mean, me and Jack have a great relationship. I'm sure Maddie and Ben can attest that we bicker sometimes. But we have a lot of fun together. And honestly, kind of swimming on the same team with, I'm just so lucky how many people A, get to swim Division I at a Power 5 school, and then B, get to do it with their younger brother. It's just been, it's been a really, really surreal experience. And, even though he doesn't always show his emotions, I know he's always in my corner cheering for me 110% as I am with him. So, it's been pretty amazing. And to be honest, I think he came at a really good time where, he came at the start of my junior year. And my freshman and sophomore year, I definitely struggled a little bit. So for him to kind of come in and, I don't know, I guess remind me of home and sort of, I don't know, I guess he brought a feeling of familiarity, and I kind of grew into myself a little bit more. I grew into my swimming. I kind of gained that confidence a bit, just having someone there who is supporting you 110% really helped me. And more than anything, someone that's honest with you. We train together all the time. So just having someone who can sit you down and be like, look, have you considered doing this? Or, I think when I watch you race, maybe you could try doing this different. And I think just having that level of honesty really kind of helped me raise my game. And, I think that's when I started seeing the improvements, was kind of after he arrived and, throughout that junior year, and then even more so this year as we both kind of grew in the sport together.
Yeah. So Ben, okay, so I've been running Island Stats 19 years. I've watched this swimming program balloon. I've watched it come down a little bit. Balloon, momentum. One of the things about momentum is medals. You have two females who have just come back from the CAC games with medals. How do we keep that interest? And we'll even let's dial it down to the female side of the sport. How do we keep that interest that these two now are the face of Bermuda swimming?
I think this momentum's been there for a while, right? I think both of these young ladies have followed behind, Kira Aiken and Rebecca Halliger, and we've had a long list of really accomplished female swimmers. They've followed in that path, and I believe that the accomplishments that they just had will now encourage the group behind them to follow in that same path. I think that swimming has done a really good job with women in sport, and our female program has been extremely strong. See that in our Commonwealth youth team that has 4 young athletes that will be competing for us. So I think that we continue to build in that direction. Obviously, all of our region and maybe across the world, there's going to be a little bit of a dip because of the 2 COVID years.
Right.
But I think that this will be a great spark. Right. It always happens that way. When you get the kind of results that these two have had, there'll be some young ladies that will look up and say, well, I want to be able to accomplish the same things that they have. And I think that's one of the reasons that we can all be so proud of them, because not only do they perform at that level, you can see that both of them can handle themselves on camera. Both of them, set that kind of standard to be role models for the next generation. So we can't really ask for anything more from Bermuda Swimming, but to have 2 great ambassadors like both of these young ladies.
Yeah. So, Emma, let me ask you, you're swimming, so your last year, your final year, you're named a co-captain of this team. Being named as a co-captain, a leader, a standout, because your teammates have to pick you. How do you react to something like that? And then what are you telling yourself at the initial first meet after you was officially the representative for the females?
Yeah. I mean, being a captain is just like, it's just been it was such an amazing experience. I feel like I grew so much as a person. And to be honest, it helped me see a different side of the sport. I think especially my first 2 years, I, of course, was so, super bought into the team. Of course I cared about how everyone else is doing, and importantly, how the relays were doing and how we were scoring at Big Tens. But I think just kind of being named a captain takes that to a whole other level. And, in a way, I think that was maybe one of the reasons why I was able to succeed quite a bit this year, is just because it takes the pressure off of you, and it kind of becomes, all right, it's not just me behind the blocks. It's not just this one race, you feel so involved in what everyone else is doing. And that's just amazing because, not only does it take the pressure off of you, but it brings just this element of fun where you're on the side of the pool, you're just screaming as hard as you can for your teammates. And, some of my best memories are when girls on our team, touch someone out from another team at a meet, just won a relay by like 5/100ths of a second. I will look back on those memories for the rest of my life. And I think just being a captain sort of just elevates that to a whole different level. But I'm just so grateful to have had that experience. And I know that I'll take that with me for my future career.
So Emma, 0.04 of a second can decide whether you come third or fourth, innit? So let me ask you, because you've been in this setup, and I know we have young people who's about to get involved, and it doesn't necessarily just have to be swimming. It's student athlete and understanding what is required from you. What is, we're a laid back community. So how did you adjust to the demand of, you were probably already had it, early morning swimming, dates, school, back to swimming. How did you adjust, and what was it that was done in Bermuda that would allow you to understand that growth?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, as Ben mentioned, Bermuda does a great job of setting us up for success. The whole Bermuda swim team, it really did prepare me. Honestly, probably some of the best, just the best I could have asked for, just for swimming swimming in the UK and then also swimming at a collegiate level. I think the most important thing I learned is just balance. There's going to be times in, your career, and there's going to be times throughout the season where you have to take the gas off a little bit and swimming during finals week. When you're taking a break in summer, I think it's so important to prioritize other aspects of your life. Otherwise, you get 1-2 years into an Olympic cycle, or even 4 or 5 months into a single season, and you're just feeling a burnout. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things I learned, is that it's okay to take breaks, and it's okay for, although swimming is a huge part of my life, and it always will be, it's okay for it not to be the most important thing in your life 365 days a year. And I think that's allows you for longevity in the sport, and I think it just keeps things light and keeps things fun. And especially even if swimming is a really important part of your life, I think also just finding different ways to enjoy it, as I mentioned, like really buying into the team aspect of it. When you're waking up at 5 a.m., not just seeing this as, I have to get into a cold pool and do this practice and, break my body down for 2 hours, but, seeing as, it's a fun opportunity to, hang out with my friends and push each other and listen to really fun music. And I think just kind of trying to keep it light at times has been crucial for me, and definitely factored into a lot of how I'm still able to enjoy the sport.
Sure. So Maddie, let me ask you, because you're a veteran. You can smile. You're a veteran.
I have made it. I have finally made it. Yeah.
But hearing what Emma said, it's something that you transitioned through learning as you grew into, your schooling life. But take us through the emotion of how you would have had to, transfer from Bermuda athlete to now this demanding athlete in Colorado, because and there's no disrespect to anything that we do in Bermuda, you're talking about 3 or 4 levels up, that now they're asking you for much more than what you're used to doing. So talk us through that period.
Right. So honestly, I'll just disclaim with this. Some of the sets that Ben does, literally now, you will not catch me doing. He's wild.
Yeah.
True. Like, I still talk about that with him. I'd be like, I would pack my stuff up and I'd go. So basically,
Man, you're a slave driver, man.
Hey, shh. Okay.
So
don't scare the next generation.
I know.
Okay.
I think in Bermuda it sets you up so well because, like, at the time when we were growing up, we had like we all kind of trained together with the national team in the morning, and then we all had our club teams at night. So I remember when my mom got like a call saying that like I had made the national team, and I was like, oh my God, like I get to get up like so early and train. Like, I don't know why I was so excited for it. I
was laughing.
I was like,
that's so funny.
So that was a really good kind of, base kind of minimum. Like swimming is in the morning. Like, that's where most of the practices are. So that in itself got me prepared. And then, having like a whole day of school to follow that, and then going back to the pool. Honestly, I feel like club swimming was so much harder than college, because in college you have a few classes and then
right.
But in college as well, it's so much more specialized. Like, with Ben, he has to train everyone for everything. You're growing up, you're kind of seeing what you're the best at, blah blah blah. But when you get to like the collegiate level, what you're good at, and and they have groups to put you in, and you're not doing. I wouldn't be doing distance practices, even though Ben might sometimes like to think that I need it. But,
hoping that last 25 meters.
You're a sprinter. You don't need to go around no 50-meter pools 8 times. No, you're a sprinter.
Yeah, I'm drop dead sprinter. So yeah, it's just a lot more individualized, and so yeah, I think Bermuda set you up really well. No, but I mean, now there's a WARC program, and Harbor Sharks, still all morning practices, and so honestly, I feel like the earlier you start with the morning practices, you just kind of keep going, and you just have to get on with it.
Sure. But we do have a comment, and I do want to read it because I think it's vital and it's important. Huge congratulations to Maddie and Emma. As a mom of a promising athlete, I fully appreciate the sacrifice you make and I really hope that you get the support you need to continue. And Ben, that speaks volumes, because not just in swimming, we see a lot of our athletes who are considered top athletes at college and university level, and then because of lack of funding, they can't continue and end up on the sideline. And we always keep saying, what if, what if, what if? I don't want you to answer this politically. I want you to answer this as a coach. How do we now look at it as a country to ensure that the 3 medals that they won between themselves can actually now turn into 2 medals at the Olympic Games now that they're finished their collegiate career? Because this is where we now need that funding.
Well, it's a non-political answer, but the issue is that we have to change the way we think about sports. I think Flora Duffy opened that door and let everybody know what we are capable of from a small environment, right? She trained the same way that these 2 young ladies trained in the early mornings for swimming. That's where it started. And all those years later, she gets to that end result that everybody is proud of. But the journey in between those 2 points, a lot of that was supported by parents, right? And both of these young ladies have very supportive parents that have allowed them to get to this point. And I know that both of them are thankful for the amount of support that their parents have been able to give them. Now, the transition part is the part. They're now adults. What happens is you're looking for kind of, it's almost work time, where if you continue to train and you're not working, at the end of this journey, then the new boss says, well, where have you been? What have you been doing? Where's your work experience? And we have to understand that and figure out, how do we get them that experience at the same time that we are giving them the support to reach their goals. And I think it's important. You look at the bigger countries that you would be expecting them to be able to compete against. What are they doing to support their athletes? They are creating that kind of environment that allows them to reach their goals. We don't have as many people that are in this boat. So the cost is actually not as astronomical as we think, but we have to support the athletes that we have in order to get to that goal. Because although the goal would be for us to get medals at the Olympics from both of these young athletes, I think the journey and what they represent as role models for young women in Bermuda is more important than any medal that they could get. They show you by their actions what they're capable of, which then allows the generation behind them to follow.
Yeah. Maddie, when you would have first started the swim program, and people started saying, "Oh, you got some talent. You're relatively good." Did you think down the road you would be a medalist holder at the CAC Games?
Honestly, probably not. I mean, I say this all the time. I did not like swimming. I think my parents threw me in it, obviously for, water safety, but my sister liked it more and I was just kind of there. But yeah, I feel like once, I made my first Carifta team and, I started winning medals, at the Carifta Games and then CC-CAN. I think you start kind of like chipping away and, your dreams start getting bigger and, to medal at this level, it's definitely something that's been in the works for a while. So, yeah.
So, Emma, you hear someone like Maddie talk about that progression and talk about, the challenges of what you're leaving behind, because you're now in a position, Emma, that some young person that would go to training tomorrow and say to Ben or say to another coach, I want to be like Emma Harvey. How do you maintain all of that and still try to get the best out of yourself, because you're now, you realize you're a figurehead, you're a role model, yeah. No more pressure. No more pressure.
Yeah, as you mentioned, I think something that some of my coaches mentioned, when I became a captain, is that sometimes pressure and responsibility is, the greatest privilege you can have. And I think I try and look at it that way. I know when I was younger and I looked up to athletes like Roy, it's just to have that honor, just to have younger kids, just being curious in your career and just, just looking up to you. It makes me so happy, and it makes me emotional, just because I don't think anything you can say or do, or, anything you do in the pool can replicate that feeling. I think a lot of athletes would say that's why they keep going. That's why they push through all the hard times, just because they think of their younger self and they think about, what they needed. And I think, just to be someone that younger girls especially can look up to is I really can't put into words how much it means to me.
Ben, to have talent, I mean, you've had talent at your fingertips before, but on the female side, to have talent, we usually get one every 4 or 5 years, either male or female. Now we have two, and we have some young men knocking on that door. Because Jack was in several A finals. I mean, he's knocking at the door. So for the program, I want you to spend a couple of minutes just selling the program to those parents on the sideline that not only want their kid to learn how to swim, but learn how to structurally make a career out of it and probably get an education as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the part that you touched on at the end is the most important one. I think both of these young ladies will tell you that it's the education background that they've been able to accomplish through swimming that is the part that they will take with them after the swimming career is over. Swimming teaches a level of discipline and teamwork and structure that I think bodes well for every decision and whatever organization you're going to be a part of later on. I know that I've talked to university administrators who have said that the first thing they do is they take the swimming pile and they put it on a separate pile, because they know that the swimmers are going to show up. They come early, they leave late, they work hard, they know how to work in a group, they know how to work with each other, set goals, reach deadlines. All of those things come from being part of this sport. The other part that I think is always great, I'm going to tell you the resilience that you will see from these athletes, right? Emma talked about you go through periods in swimming where you're not going to get faster, and you have to understand that you're putting in an enormous amount of time and energy to get maybe 1/100th of a second or not get 1/100th of a second.
Yeah.
And it's how you deal with that and how you can continue to be positive and continue to work with your teammates. I think those are all great life lessons that they'll take with them. And I think that that's a message to give to any parent that is thinking about getting involved with a sport. We have a clean sport that is disciplined. Yes, it's going to be time consuming. It's going to be a lot of hard work. But at the end of that journey, you hope that you end up with great young adults like we have in front of us.
So, Emma, why Colorado?
Maddie?
No.
I'm sorry, Maddie. Maddie, why Colorado? Sorry.
I mean, okay, so when I went through the recruiting process, I was in the UK. I had no clue what I was doing, I'll be honest. But when I was talking with the coaches, I was kind of whittling it down who I would kind of get along with, who I might clash with. And I just took a liking to Lisa, the head coach. She had extensive background at Auburn and Alabama, and her dad was the head of USA Swimming for a while. And everything she kind of stood for were the things that I was looking for in a team. So yeah, I just kind of committed there. They also had a great criminal justice program.
Okay.
So yeah, I really enjoyed my time there. So
Sure. And officially, Emma, why Penn State?
Man, it's funny because I think the reasons why I chose Penn State initially, while they've been amazing and I've loved them so much, I've come to love Penn State for so many different reasons. And there are things that I just feel so lucky that I got to experience because, to be completely honest, I never even considered those factors, being part of a Big Ten Power 5 school with a amazing alumni association, the craziest fans, probably craziest collegiate fans you could probably see throughout the country. We have the second largest stadium in America and the third largest in the world for our football program. So I think just being part of an athletic community like that is just, the slogan at Penn State is unrivaled, and it truly is.
Yeah.
But, thinking about to what was going through my head when I was going through the recruiting process, as I mentioned, I was definitely struggling for those, years, the first 2 years of school, and also the 2 years leading up to going to college. And to be completely honest, the coaches there, they just saw something in me. They're patient with me. The results ended up paying off, but, I'm just so grateful that they gave me the opportunity. And, I think at that time I was just looking for coaches and, a team that was going to support you through thick and thin. And I think I found that. And, that's what originally attracted me to the program. And yeah, it's been one of the best parts about it.
Sure. Now I get the distinct pleasure of saying, Emma, can you show us the medals that you won?
Of course.
I'm going to go to a single shot because eventually, get ready, Maddie. Your turn is next.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So this is the bronze medal from the 50 fly on the last night, and this is the silver medal from the 50 back on the first night.
Those two medals, what do they mean to you?
Oh, I think I kind of touched on it at the beginning, but I don't think I realized how much I wanted them until I had got this first one. And just, I don't know, I think it sounds cliche, but looking at it, I think I see, so much up and down in the sport. And, just being able to come with something at the end is, yeah, I almost can't put into words how much it means to me. And, they always say that, medals are for life, medals last for life. And I just know that it's something that I'll always look to, in the good times and especially the bad times, just to know that, you can get through anything and you can push through anything and you can come out the other side even stronger.
Yeah, great stuff. There you go. Maddie.
Freestyle. Right there.
So now, Maddie, you've won CCKM medals, you've won Carifta medals, a CAC medal, another step up. What does this particular medal mean to you, your family? I mean, because sacrifices have been made all around. What does this medal mean to you?
Oh, like you said, sacrifices have been made all around. Like, the support that my family has given me is truly unmatched. Like, they would really do anything for me, and it's just the best feeling that I could possibly ever have. After, the race, obviously went straight to my phone, see what my mom had said. And she was just, I'm still shaking. I'm so excited. And it just made me so unbelievably excited that she got to see that on the live stream. So yeah, it's just kind of the medal to me is just kind of representing it's what my family has been able to give to me and, what I've been able to do for myself. And, especially this year, this transition year is, ups and downs. So it's just kind of really nice to, see a material thing right there showing the hard work is, actually paying off.
Sure. So Ben, let me come back to you because we've won 3 medals at the games and 3 medals have come from these two sitting in front of us. As a coach of a sport, tell us how rewarding is it that you had a hand in getting them started, keeping them up. Okay, so they go to college, they get a little more experience, but they come back, but they still have these and Maddie said it earlier. She's throwing away some of the programs. We're not doing this. But as a coach, take us through that emotion of sitting there watching it. Now, and I would say, Maddie and Emma, I've been to some major festivals with Ben, and I've videotaped it at finals. I never show it, but I videotaped it at finals. So, we talk about it. But Ben, that once you've given instructions, once you've done all the prep work, you're now on the sideline. All you could do is watch. Take us through the emotion as a coach of watching these two and others perform.
I will tell you that this one was different. There was a quiet confidence that they were going to achieve what they did. I think they both came in with that confidence. You could tell as we were going through the progress what they were going to do. Mm-hmm. I think every time they went off to the marshalling area, I just thought that they were going to perform. That's the way they showed up from day one, and that was the way the preparation went. Now, once they touch the wall and you look over at because you're watching the race, you see them touch the touchpad, but you don't actually know what the result's going to be until you look over at the clock. And then the second that you see that and it settles in is when the excitement really comes in. It was just, I'm going to say that both of them would probably agree. The atmosphere at the competition pool was amazing. The nighttime was just lots of excitement and drums playing in the background and people cheering. And what I would really tell you is that the Caribbean was quite supportive of the Caribbean athletes.
All right. Okay.
There is a bit of a rivalry between the Central American teams and the Caribbean teams. And every time a Caribbean swimmer was in that A final, all of the Caribbean athletes and support staff were always there to support. The other great part about a CAC Games was just the opportunity to have other athletes from Bermuda, and the BOA was there, and just seeing the first of all, the pink shirts everywhere was just a huge highlight. And I believe on the last night when they swam the 50, I think the rugby team might have been able to come. It was just great to have that atmosphere and to have that support. I think overall it was just a successful competition, but I think I would not be a good coach if I didn't mention the other two athletes.
Yes, definitely.
So both Jack and Benedict did amazing at this competition. Obviously, what happens when you come back and you have medalists, the medalists get all of the shine. But Jack put in great performances in his events. Benedict, who's just kind of returned to the sport last September, he put in some personal best times. I think both of them have a bright future in front of them. Obviously, that competition was extremely strong. Some of those times are going to stand up worldwide that particularly Jack was up against in the backstroke events and Benedict in the freestyle events. So I think overall having four athletes that were really focused on the accomplishment, they fed off each other. I don't think that the results would have happened if they were not such a great team with each other, right? They got along well. When we had our meals together. Obviously, it's tight quarters when you're back at the village, and we won't say how wonderful it was.
Oh, yeah.
I know you remember what that's like.
Yes.
The truth of the matter is they feed off each other, right? So if the team is in good spirits, that helps to get the result that you're looking for. And I just think that we had four swimming athletes that were well prepared and really excited to support each other. So that helped to get the results that we got.
Definitely. I mean, I want to say we did reach out to both Ben and Jack, who had prior commitments. So we don't want anyone to think that we just got the medalists and so forth. But I'm glad that you two young ladies were able to join us this evening, because I honestly believe your accomplishments are inspirations, and that's what you have to always take from these type of things. You're inspiration to someone else who could be knocking on that door next. And it doesn't necessarily have to be swimming, it could be life. And what you guys have been able to do in your life in the sport, I want you to be proud of everything you've accomplished thus far. And I know Paris is just around the corner.
Yes, it is.
So with that, I'm going to say thank you, Ben. Thank you, Madeline. Thank you, Emma. Folks, have a good night. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.